And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. This is our first episode of 2024. So I want to welcome you all to another phenomenal year. Our intent with the show in this year is to continue bringing you phenomenal conversations with amazing people in the franchise industry. And so we thought it'd be pretty cool to start off this year with somebody who's an industry veteran, currently serving as the CEO of Wellbiz Brands, which is an organization that has multiple brands under their umbrella that we're going to talk about, mostly in the beauty space, places that are helping people feel better about themselves. They've got over 900 locations open globally, 300 in development. I'm done talking about this because I'm going to bring the guy who's leading the ship, the CEO, Jeremy Morgan, into the conversation. Jeremy, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. It's good to meet you.
It's good to meet you as well. I want to talk about your journey in franchising.
All right, that sounds good.
What was your very first opportunity, job, whatever it was, exposure to the franchise business model?
So my first job in the franchising world was at Smashburger. Actually, I joined the Smashburger team in 2010 after some stints at investment banking and consulting. Was just kind of coming in as a strategy guy. Smashburger had 25 or so units at the time and had just started to take off. And boy, it was a heck of a ride. I was there for 4 years. We went from 25 units to 300. It was a mix of corporate owned and franchise, so it was about 50-50 on each. I think we built 60 restaurants in my first 6 months there, and just learned so much and really fell in love with the model. I mean, I didn't know that much about franchising specifically when I jumped in. I had a passion for consumer concepts and retail, and this one was a really hot one at the time. So I was really excited to move to Denver and be a part of the management team there. And I ended up leading the marketing team for the 4 years. And so we learned a lot about how to do marketing in a franchise context and what it means to drive results for franchisees and corporate units at the same time.
Yeah. And that's always like the dichotomy, right? When you're in charge of marketing a franchise, you got to take care of the Z's. You've also got to take care of your brand, like do the brand marketing and help, with franchise development. That's where I found myself too. Like you and I had a similar type of journey. I took a position with a company that I didn't know was a franchisor until about, a couple months in. I'm like, oh, you guys franchise. Oh, cool. And then next thing you know, I look up like you and I'm like, man, this is a really cool industry because of just so many aligned incentives and, just aligned mission and all those things. So,
yeah, it's super interesting, right? I mean, just in that kind of world, you learn really quickly that there's a lot of marketing means a lot of things. I mean, there's marketing for your corporate units. There's managing an advertising fund and working with an advisory council and making sure it's working good for your franchisees. There's the brand stuff, there's brand dev marketing, to your point. And, we were a concept that ultimately had ambitions to sell to another concept. So we had kind of investor relations oriented marketing going on. And, you learn to flex a lot of different muscles really quickly. Smashburger was always a drinking from the fire hose kind of place with that kind of growth, and learned a lot. And it really established a great baseline for me for the future.
Yeah. Trial by fire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then, what is Tava Kitchen, by the way? Is that what type of concept is that? So that was the next place that you went?
That was the next place. Right? So after Smashburger, I had joined the board of Tava Kitchen with some friends of mine who had started. It was a fast casual Indian concept that they had started out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and kind of fell in love with what they were doing and left Smashburger to take a more entrepreneurial approach, with part of the goal being to get into franchising and grow it that way. We got a couple years in. We actually ended up selling it to a concept that's still out there, actually franchising quite a bit, growing great, called Curry Up Now, which is another fast casual Indian concept that originated from the Bay Area. So it was about a 3-year stint. We had half a dozen or so restaurants. And I do think it really helped inform, I very much got the feel for what it means to be that small business operator in the process of that, which I think is a very good thing for a franchisor to really understand what it's like to be in the really in the trenches on that day-to-day small business journey.
Absolutely. It also helps, and you guys probably deal with this as well. I've always said that there's alignment in this business model, and if you're not like in tune with what franchising aligns, go do research, look at some of my past episodes. But there's so many things that are aligned: culture, incentives, just so many brand, obviously, the things that people see. But there's always this weird dichotomy as well. And we dealt with this at our last company. We had 3 franchise brands. We had a home office. We had shared resources, and there was always this kind of thing where a lot of our franchise partners thought that we were disconnected from what they were doing because, maybe we hadn't walked in their shoes. So it's kind of cool when, you get that street cred is really what it is. Like, we took over one of our smoothie shops, operated it for a year, turned it around, sold it to our manager. And now we've got the scars. Like, we got the call when somebody didn't show up to open the store. We got the calls when things didn't go right. And so we had to solve those problems. And now when I talk to franchisees, it's like, oh yeah, I've had the line stacked up 10 deep and I'm sweating because it's, nobody else showed up. I understand what you're going through. Let's figure out that. And you have that sympathy, but also you have the credibility.
Right.
The credibility. Right. So my question is, how many massages have you given now?
I'm not a massage therapist.
Elements Massage was your next gig, right?
That's right.
Your next brand?
I joined Wellbiz Brands as the CEO of Elements Massage, which is our biggest brand, and frankly, it was most of the company. We had Wellbiz had Fitness Together and a smaller fitness concept called Fit 36 at the time. But no, I'm not a massage therapist. You have to be licensed. So I have not done that myself. But it was interesting when I joined. I'd been a member for a long time, actually, so I knew the brand well. I knew the concept well. It was based here out of Denver. I actually had some former colleagues that were already working at Wellbiz, and was just really excited to go work in a slightly different industry, being wellness and beauty, but leveraging everything I'd learned about kind of both just small business broadly and franchising more specifically.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk a little bit. So we can't assume that people know what the brands are.
Yeah, sure.
Under Wellbiz Brands. Why don't you just give a quick overview of your guys' brands so that our listeners know what you've got?
Absolutely. So at Wellbiz, we're the franchisor for 5 wellness and beauty brands. We have 900 units across the portfolio. Our 5 brands are Amazing Lash Studio, which is an eyelash extension brand; Dry Bar, which focuses on blowouts; Elements Massage, which we just talked about, which is a massage brand; Fitness Together, which is our personal training brand; and Radiant Waxing, which is a waxing studio.
Got it. Cool. All centered around helping people, I would say, outside looking in, live their best lives, feel and look good.
Yeah, you're pretty close. You're almost to the mission statement. You're almost there.
Am I?
For sure.
I haven't read it, so that's pretty cool.
For sure, we strive to be the bright spot in people's day, but at the same time, we're not taking ourselves so seriously. We know we're not curing cancer with what we're doing,
right.
But we know that people really look towards our brands to help them look good, feel good, and instill confidence. And our brands have a lot in common. It's interesting, a lot of times. Early days, at least, I'd get the question, what the heck does a eyelash extension chain have to do with a massage chain, right? But when you look at our portfolio, we've been pretty deliberate on how we've constructed it over time. All of our brands start with focusing on a female consumer, a middle upper income female consumer. We call that mass affluence that's there. They're all in beauty and wellness, as we've already talked about. They all focus on a highly recurring, ideally membership-driven model. So those folks that are going to come back again and again and again. And, that's both from a consumer perspective, but informs our franchise business model quite a bit. So probably talk about membership here again in a little bit. They all focus on personal services. So one-on-one with another human service provider. So whether that's, you're getting a massage with a massage therapist, or your lashes or a wax done with an esthetician. At Dry Bar, it's cosmetologist. At Fitness Together, it's a personal trainer. But you are, we think that provides just a great moat around, a lot of the online trends. Like, you really do need to go see a person for these services. But at the same time, it provides a different element of connection. And then this is, of course, in a franchising context as well. And so when you pull those threads together, a lot of it has to do with the type of businesses and personal services that are in the beauty space. But it allows us as a franchisor to set ourselves up to provide really, really high quality depth of experience and proven playbooks that work
Yeah.
across these different categories.
That's awesome, man. I never really put it together. I mean, I knew that your avatar was, recurring revenue, kind of membership services as well as female, but I never really put together that you have one-on-one services that were happening. Like you have a human being, a trained professional in one of these 5 disciplines, helping that person, basically get an end result, which is look or feel great, which is that's really cool. As we talk about things like AI, which has been a big topic over the past 18 months or 12 months since Chat GPT went wild mainstream, people are looking at opportunities that it's like, hey, where's the human component, the humans, right?
Yeah,
And
no,
so
I
you
think
guys
that's
are well
right.
positioned that way. You still need a lot of the humans.
We're very well positioned, and by the way, it helps on the real estate strategy a lot too. I mean, the landlords really love to have us because we're bringing in that desired demographic. I mean, the that upper middle income female consumer like drives the wallet for the grocery store anchors, for pretty much anything that's going to be in those shopping centers, and she's coming back again and again and again for these services. And I mean, look, there's room for AI in every business model. Believe
Absolutely.
me, but that element of human connection, we certainly think is important and is, a differentiator for what we are able to provide to our members and guests.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you guys look for when you're looking for, your ideal franchisee? Are you looking for somebody who might be interested in multiple units within the same brand? Are you looking at people that want to maybe fly different different brands under Wellbiz Brands flag under the umbrella? What's kind of the
maybe yes and yes. I'd say like the bread
yes
and butter,
and yes, right?
Yeah, I mean the bread and butter historically has certainly been that first time small business owner that is looking for a concept that they're passionate about, and maybe they are looking to leave their job or re-enter the workforce, and they're really passionate about massage, or they're really passionate about blowouts, or they've been a member of one of our concepts. We've probably 75% of our franchisees come from that type of model. That said, as we have built out the platform over time and have added new brands, what's been really exciting is it provides a couple of different avenues for folks to grow and opportunities for different types of franchisees. So, we are able to, of course, grow with franchisees that want to stay within one brand and go from 1 to 3 to 5 units over time, and that's fantastic. We also now have the ability to do more of a multi-brand approach. And one of the key benefits there with us is, one, it means that you get the same support team, the same franchise agreements, the same technology tools, the same playbooks, different brands, but maybe you're able to do that all within one shopping center, or within the same trade area. You don't have to drive 30 minutes to go from location to location. You do have to learn a different concept, but a lot of the building blocks are maybe the same. It's also allowed over time, as some of our brands have become more mature, for larger, sophisticated franchise operators that maybe own a dozen units or 30 units and are looking to diversify their portfolio from restaurants into personal services or something else. And we have a lot of that going on too. And so it's, like I said, the bread and butter is still the first time small business owner, but we certainly support a pretty broad range of franchisees.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about like what the range of franchisees can be. And a lot of listeners who are maybe building their franchise system or early in the journey may not really think about this, because when you're newer and you're younger, you're going to attract, probably not that higher level sophisticated investor who's going to be acquiring maybe an entire state, maybe an entire country, master rights, right? But as I was like driving through Kansas City the other day, we have one of the biggest franchisees of Wendy's here, and they have built an enormous office building. This is a franchisee, has built an enormous office building in Hallbrook Farms, which is our nicest neighborhood. And I was driving by and I'm like, man, that's a franchisee. It's not a franchisor, it's a franchisee. And that is
it's
really,
pretty
really
incredible.
Cool. It's really incredible.
The empires that have been built in franchising. I always think about franchising. There's kind of three buckets of, there's the restaurants, and that's like maybe a third of it that's out there, and there's like hotels, which is like the next, and then like you have a lot of not just I don't view our brands as emerging franchisors anymore, but even at 1,000 units, you're a heck of a lot smaller than some of the behemoths in the restaurant space. And so personal services, beauty, these type of things are just in probably the first inning of getting the attention of people that are going to try to figure out how to own 500 of them over time, like you see in Taco Bell, like you see in Wendy's or KFC, or like you see in McDonald's. And I just think that's really cool. It's a wealth generating opportunity. It's a long-term play up against some really cool brands. And I think you're going to start to see that in the space that we play in.
I never really thought about that, but yeah, I mean, because the opportunities, I mean, how many more McDonald's do we need? Like, how many more is there available, territories available? There can't be that many more, or fill in the blank, right? And so as food service gets saturated, or, not enough new concepts arise, and people or entities are looking for places to store capital and get a return on it, look for some other blue oceans, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the I think the thing that's really interesting when we talk to these bigger restaurant operators about the opportunity, and it's in a lot of ways there's a lot of similarities in terms of the skill set that's needed. I mean, if you're a good operator, like that's going to certainly be a thing. What's really attractive to those folks in our world is, I mean, there's not really much of a COGS line item, right? I mean, in food, 30% of the P&L goes away to pay for the food. In beauty services, there's some you have to pay for the beauty product and other things, but it's 10% of the P&L, not 30, 35. And so it's really all about being just a great cultural operator. How do you manage people, make the experience great? And I think hospitality-oriented restaurateurs in the franchise space really kind of salivate at, like, wait, you mean I just have to worry about managing the teams? And there's this
no food, no supply chain.
There's this membership model where, like, the people, like, on a recurring basis pay you whether or not there's a snowstorm, or you don't have to worry about you mean you schedule the appointments 3 weeks in advance and can predict exactly what your labor needs are going to be. I mean, it's if you're good at running kind of the chaos of what a restaurant can be, you're probably going to excel in a personal services type of environment.
That's a good point. Or put another way, a little bit more simple, less variables.
Maybe a little bit more simple.
I like simplicity. Like, business is challenging enough. There's enough curveballs that are thrown at us. So, like, if you can isolate the variables and have a more simple business model and still get that type of return, I would absolutely want to do that.
It's part of our ethos. I mean, each of our 5 brands, I mean, I didn't say this on the top, but I mean, they're all, I mean, I know each of the 5 founders fairly well, and they're all started. We kept it to this day. Like, they do one thing. I mean, Dry Bar is only blowouts. We're not doing coloring. We're not doing cuts. We're not doing any of these, like, Elements is only massage, and Fitness Together is only the personal training part. And it gets to that simplicity of the model. If you can be you're able to become the best at it. And consumers believe that you're going to be the best at it if it's all you're doing, which is a big part of it too. You got to have that value prop. Then, man, how much easier is it to operate if you are only doing eyelash extensions versus if you are trying to do everything from med spa to nails to everything else at the same time? Like, you're able to really focus on it and provide a great service for everybody.
I love it. I want to talk about the membership model.
All right.
I've been much like the franchise business model. You could ask my dad this question. Like, since 2015, I've been talking about the membership economy and whatnot. Now, back then, it wasn't that normal, and now I think that
everyone wants to do it now.
Everyone wants to do it. Why? Because, I mean, it makes business so much more fun and to manage. Like, you can look out the front window and realize what's going to happen and have some predictability in the business. And I think that, the pandemic probably really helped drive that home, in the fact that if you've got instead of like lumpy revenue, you have baked in revenue, it makes life a little bit less stressful. All of your brands, all 5 brands, operate on a membership model. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. And it's mission critical to things. But I will say, like, I think that, to your point, a lot of folks have latched on to, like, man, this membership model thing looks pretty great from a business perspective, and it does. By the way, it's an important part of the the value prop. But you can't force it. Like, it needs to start with, like, what is good for the consumer. And if you can create a membership experience that is good for the consumer, then you can kind of build from there and figure out how to make it work with your business. If you do it in the other direction, then it's like, hey, I just like to have recurring revenue. Like, you're probably going to struggle to have that resonate the right way with consumers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps to have services that are recurring in nature.
By
You
its
can't
very
just go to
nature, are
a
recurring.
personal trainer one
That's right.
time and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not going to happen, right?
Well, and I think in our model too, what we really pride ourselves in is we want folks to use the membership. Like, this isn't a bait and switch where it's like, we're going to sell you something, it's going to hit your credit card, we hope you never see it again, and like, if you don't come in, that's good for us. Like, we know, in fact, if folks haven't come in like once or 2 months in a row or so, like, they're on the list to reach out to get them to come in, because we believe in that long-term value. Like, if you're not using it, go on pause, suspend it, terminate, like, come on back. I'd rather have that than build up 10 sessions that you're not using and then be really, really frustrated with the experience. It's just not so we try to instill that ethos into franchisees from the beginning. And look, some models are more attuned towards having memberships that aren't being used, but ours very much are not. And in fact, the biggest predictor that someone's going to quit is that they haven't been in 2 or 3 months. And we set all of our like, there's not contract. I mean, there's membership agreements, but we're not locking folks in for 12 months. These are month-to-month contracts. If they want to quit, like, let us know. It's like a 30-day notice period for the most part. It's not like, hey, you're stuck with us forever. We want it to be a membership that's easy to get into and easy to get out of, because we believe that if we do the right things with the service, you're going to want to stick with it and keep using it.
Yeah. I always like to say, you have the opportunity to like earn their business back every month by providing exemplary service. One of the things you said that I thought was pretty cool, it's like, if I'm somebody who's coming in, I'm thinking about, I'm a hyper local person, right? So I don't want to expand outside of my area. So I want to maybe take that more the path of learning about your different brands. And maybe I want to, put 2 or 3 in the same strip mall, as you were saying, and have some synergy between them. I think you alluded to earlier that they're all kind of using behind the scenes some more technology, or the same technology.
They are. So,
okay,
I mean,
that's cool. Let's talk about your tech stack a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just taking like a half a step back, and technology is just probably one piece of it here. Wellbiz, from the outside, it looks like a holding company, and I guess technically it is, but it really is an operating entity. We have about 125 people on our team. Out of that, almost everyone is carrying a Wellbiz business card, not a Dry Bar business card, not an Elements business card. And when you take a peek behind the covers, I've shared what the brands have similarly, but let's dive a little bit deeper in the business model. All of them are roughly 1,500 square foot locations that are probably sitting out in front of a Target or grocery anchored center in the suburbs, with a front desk that's staffed with people that do customer service and sell memberships, with a service provider that's doing a roughly 1 hour appointment. We use digital marketing to go find that guest for the first time on Facebook or Google, serve them up with a compelling offer to come in for the first time. They come in and get a great experience, and then we hit them up with a membership on the other side. I mean, so whether it's a blowout, an eyelash extension, it's like the business engine is the same. Yeah. And so from my team's perspective, we have a membership sales team. We have a digital marketing team. We have a common tech stack. We have a learning management system that takes everything. It's the same tools that are needed. Now, of course, they need to be, the last 20% is Dry Bar specific or Amazing Lash specific, but they're all pretty similar. And so when you think about, and so the technology stack is this, it's a common point of sale platform. We're on Booker and MindBody, where MindBody shop. Over the top of that, we have a common online ordering or online booking system across the top of all those, a common KPI system, a common learning management system that everyone is using. And so if you decided to if you've been an Elements owner and you decided to open an Amazing Lash, you're going to have to learn about eyelash extensions and product and all those things. Yeah. But, the sales training tools for the front desk are pretty darn close to the same. How you're going to log into that learning management system is the same. How you're going to operate the online booking system is the same. And, oh, by the way, the franchise agreement's going to look roughly the same. You're going to have the same support person, operation coach that's going to be able to work with you on both. That part's
critical right there, right?
Which is critical. And so and you're going to have the same digital marketing team that's working with you on both. You're going to understand our gift card sales process really, really well. So you're not going to have to start from scratch, essentially. Yeah. It's going to be a pretty similar approach if you've gotten used to those playbooks and like them.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's one of the core things that, I've gotten out of our conversation here, because, my last company, we had multiple brands, and it was challenging to get them all under the same tech stack. Like we ended up building our
It's
own,
hard.
and it was hard. It was a decade-long process.
It is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And look, I think our business model as the franchisor, I mean, look, there's pros and cons to everything, right? I mean, I think that, but because we have set it up this way, like when we bring on a new brand, look, it's not a fun project to change out a point of sale system, but like we know that's what's going to be needed to really go through and make sure that we're delivering all of our playbooks the right way to everyone. So it's not even really a question of if, it's kind of when and how we're going to get it rolled out. So we've got a pretty defined playbook on what that's going to look like. But the benefits that come with it, from the franchisor perspective, we have a common view into a customer that is walking into a Dry Bar, and Elements, and Amazing Lash, or Radiant Waxing. We know how we've been advertising to them. It just brings a lot of efficiencies for everyone involved. But beyond that, I get to have one tech team, not 5 tech teams. And so instead of 5 tech teams with 3 or 4 people on them, I've got one tech team with 20 that's all really trying to drive platform improvements across the board. And you can just imagine how much more effective that is to make those things best in class for our franchisees if we're not sub-optimizing it 5 different ways.
Yeah, no doubt. I keep hearing a lot of things that, the word that I keep hearing from your perspective is simplicity, whether it's simplicity in having, team members that are servicing multiple brands, technology that's doing the same, or the business model itself, or frankly, the decision process for your customer. Like
right.
I know I'm oversimplifying things, but compared to other concepts that are available in the franchise space, you guys have relatively simple concepts. And I think
some of it,
be attractive.
When we were talking for a couple of minutes before, I mean, look, I think that, I've got a restaurant background. A lot of my teams have a restaurant background. Certainly we've had discussions about, boy, would you ever bring a restaurant into Wellbiz? And like, the answer is an obvious no, because you wouldn't have all the same, it needs all different things. You don't need sales training at a restaurant. You don't need an online appointment booking thing for a restaurant. You don't need, you need totally different systems and tools. Like there's something, we could leverage our accounting team, we could leverage our marketing team stuff, but it wouldn't have the same punch. Because it wouldn't be, it's just a different type of business altogether. Yeah. Even things like doing group fitness would be a lot different than doing this one-on-one with another service provider. So it helps define our M&A strategy. It helps define how we go about improving things within the brands we have. And so, yes, it's simple, but sometimes simple is hard because it takes discipline to say no to a lot of things that would otherwise maybe be tempting to jump into.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. If people want to learn more about you and or your organization, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, the best place to start is at wellbizbrands.com. You'd be able to launch into any one of our 5 brands from there. But of course, our brands have their own websites too. So drybarshops.com, amazinglashstudio.com, elementsmassage.com, fitnesstogether.com, and radiantwaxing.com.
There we go. We'll drop all that in the show notes. So if you're driving, please don't take notes. Jeremy, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being the first guest of the year too, by the way.
Thanks for having me. It was great to spend a little bit of time with you and talk about my favorite thing, the franchising world.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, just want to ask, if you got value out of today's conversation with Jeremy, maybe you're thinking about somebody that might appreciate hearing this conversation as well. Do me a favor. Go ahead and text this episode to them right now and say, hey, I was thinking about you. Short listen. Boom. That's my only ask. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. I hope that you have a phenomenal week and be well.